aujourd'hui aussi, c'est un autre jour. Là.
Hey you, welcome to the channel for my Premier League predictions. Game week 23. Game week 22 came with some shocking and interesting scoreline. Manchester City beating Ipswich Town by 6 goals to 0. Means Manchester City is back. Chelsea beating Wolves 3-1 at Stamford Bridge. I predicted it and I got it spot on predicted. Going into this game week 23, I'm looking out for spot on predictions. My like target for this video is just 60 likes. Like, comment your thoughts and your predictions at the comment section. My name is Andy Final. Without wasting much of your time, let's get into the game week 23 predictions. Yes, so to begin, the first game in game week 23 is between 7th on the Premier League table, AFC Bournemouth versus Nottingham Forest, who is also 3rd on the Premier League table. Going into this game in game week 23 is going to be an interesting one. In game week 22, AFC Bournemouth went to the St. James Park and they managed to get a 4-1 victory over Newcastle United in game week 22. Nottingham Forest too in game week 22. They beat Southampton, who is 20th on the league table. They beat them 3 goals to 2. And going into this game in game week 23 is going to be a tough and interesting game. And I'm predicting this game to end in a draw. I'm predicting a 1-1 draw. AFC Bournemouth 1, Nottingham Forest 1. Yes, so moving on to the American Express Stadium is between Brighton versus Everton. In game week 22, Brighton managed to beat Manchester United at Old Trafford 3 goals to 1, and Everton also managed to get a 3-2 victory over Tottenham Hotspur in game 22. Going into this game in game 23, Brighton at the moment they are 9th on the Premier League table with 34 points assistance in game 22. Everton too at the moment they are also 16th on the Premier League table with 20 points assistance in game 22. Going into this game in game week 23, I'm predicting Brighton to get a victory over Everton. My prediction for this game, Brighton 2, Everton 1. Yes, so moving on to the next game at Anfield is between Liverpool versus Ipswich Town. Looking at the league table, Liverpool at the moment they are first on top of the Premier League table with 50 points assistance in game week 22, but they've already played only 21 games and they are on top of the Premier League table. Ipswich Town at the moment they are also 18th on the Premier League table with 16 points out of 22 games. Going into this game at Anfield in game 23 is going to be a very hard and difficult game for Ipswich Town. In game 22, Ipswich Town lost 6 goals to 0 against Manchester City. This season, City has been struggling, but well, in their game against Ipswich Town, they bounced back and they were able to score 6 goals in that game against Ipswich Town. And Liverpool too in game 22 managed to get a 2-0 victory over Brentford, which was a last-minute winner, courtesy Darwin Núñez. It was a shocking and interesting game. But going into this game in game 23, Liverpool hosting Ipswich Town at the Anfield, I'm predicting Liverpool to get a 4-1 victory over Ipswich Town. Liverpool 4, Ipswich Town 1. So moving on to the next game at the St. Mary's Stadium is between Southampton versus Newcastle United. Both teams lost in their game in game 22. Southampton lost 3-2 against Nottingham Forest, and Newcastle United also lost 4-1 against AFC Bournemouth in game week 22. Going into this game in game week 23, even though Newcastle lost in game week 22, but prior to that game, they've won 5 games consecutively in the Premier League, and well, they were on a good run until they met Bournemouth in game 22. But going into this game in game 23, I think they are going to bounce back to their winning ways. And I'm predicting Newcastle United to get a 4-1 victory over Southampton. Newcastle United 4, Southampton 1. Yes, so moving on to the next game is between Wolves versus Arsenal. In game of 22, Wolves went to the Stamford Bridge and they lost 3-1 against Chelsea. Arsenal also drew 2-2 against Aston Villa in game 22. Looking at the Premier League table, Arsenal at the moment they are second on the Premier League table with 44 points assistance in game week 22. Wolves at the moment, they are also 17th on the Premier League table with 16 points out of 22 games. Going to this game in game week 23 is going to be a tough game. I mean, let me talk about Arsenal. Arsenal, in recent games, they have not been impressive. It's going to be a very tough game for Wolves. But, well, I'm predicting Arsenal to get a 2-1 victory over Wolves. Arsenal 2, Wolves 1. Yeah, so moving on to the next game in game week 23 at the Etihad Stadium is between Manchester City versus Chelsea. This is the game of the week in Premier League game week 23. Manchester City going to this game. In game week 22, Manchester City managed to get a 6-0 victory over Ipswich Town, and Chelsea also got a 3-1 victory over Wolves in game week 22. Looking at the Premier League table, Manchester City at the moment, they are 5th on the Premier League table with 38 points out of 22 games. Chelsea is also 4th on the Premier League table with 40 points out of 22 games. Going into this game is going to be an interesting encounter between Pep and Maresca. Going into this game, I'm predicting Chelsea to get a narrow victory over Manchester City. I'm predicting a 2-1 victory for Chelsea. Chelsea 2, Manchester City 1. Oh yes, moving on to the next game in game week 23 is between Crystal Palace versus Brentford. In game week 22, Crystal Palace managed to get a 2-0 victory. Brentford also lost 2-0 against Liverpool in game week 22. Looking at the league table, both clubs, Brentford at the moment, they are 11th on the Premier League table with 28 points out of 22 games. Crystal Palace is also 12th on the league table with 27 points, 22 games. Going into this game in game week 23 is going to be an interesting clash between both clubs. Going into this game, I'm predicting a 2-2 draw. Crystal Palace 2, Brentford 2. Moving on to North London is between Tottenham Hotspur versus Leicester City. In game week 22, Tottenham Hotspur lost 3-2 against Everton, and Leicester City also lost 2-0 to Fulham in game week 22. Looking at the league table, Tottenham Hotspur at the moment, they are 50th on the Premier League table, going to this game against a Leicester side who is also 19th on the Premier League table. I'm predicting Tottenham Hotspur to get the victory over Leicester City. My prediction for this game, Tottenham Hotspur 3, Leicester City 1. Yes, so moving on to the Villa Park is between Aston Villa versus West Ham United. In game week 22, Aston Villa managed to get a 2-2 draw against Arsenal, and West Ham United also lost 2-0 in game week 22. Just looking at the league table, Aston Villa at the moment, they are 8th on the Premier League table with 36 points, and West Ham at the moment, they are also 40th on the Premier League table with 26 points. Going into this game at the Villa Park, game 23 is going to be a tough encounter, and I'm predicting West Ham United to get a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa. West Ham United 2, Aston Villa 1. Yes, moving on to the next game is between Fulham versus Manchester United. Looking at the Premier League table, Fulham at the moment, they are 10th on the Premier League table, and Manchester United is now 13th on the Premier League table. In game week 22, Manchester United lost 3-1 against Brighton, and Fulham also got a 2-0 victory in game week 22. Going into this game in game week 23 is going to be an exciting encounter and a very difficult game for Manchester United because they struggle against a low block side. And going into this game against Fulham, I think is going to be a tough one. My prediction for this game, I'm predicting Fulham to get a 2-1 victory over Manchester United. Fulham 2, Manchester United 1. Yeah, so these are my predictions for Premier League game week 23. Let me know your predictions and your thoughts at the comment section. My name is Andy Final. My like target for this video is just 60 likes. Like, comment your thoughts. Till we meet in another video. Bye bye for now.
I just said let's just buy drink. Obiara numbio. Penyunum kwadanu. Obiara numbio. I just said let's just buy drink. Obiara numbio. I am for no. Yen I am numbio. Yate ye na yo. Obiara numbio. Obiara numbio. Yana ye. To start natural spice drink. Go natural. FDA aje ejwadie nkratoi atoi.